about a year ago now, we were driving as a family. I forget where we were going, but from our home in Bedford View, we hopped onto the highway. Those of you who know that's the N3 at that stage, we hopped on at the Linksfield off-ramp, heading towards Sandton, and we immediately got stuck on that hill up towards Edenvale, behind one of a big delivery van. And the cars were screaming past us in the middle lane, and I was trying to get out and get around this truck, and eventually realized that probably wasn't going to happen for a while, and hoped that he would turn off. So I kind of settled in behind this truck as we chugged our way up the hill. And then halfway up the hill, this truck downshifted, and boom! A big belch of diesel smoke came out the back of this truck and engulfed the car. And, kind of came in through the vents, and, I mean, that smell of diesel smoke. It was a very acrid smell. Anyway, Hannah was sitting in the back seat behind me, and, as I said, a bit of a drama queen, my Hannah, and she kind of feigned her own death, I guess, and she opened the window, and I guess, and so I thought, okay, I'd better get out now. So we kind of whipped out from behind the truck and pulled up alongside him. And as we were overtaking the truck, Hannah almost leaned out the window and waved her finger at the driver as we went past. And picked up that phrase from the Nickelodeon channel, Don't you know that every minute of every day you are part of everyone? Why are you pollutioning my world? And all of those things. I was pretty impressed. I said, you go girl, these trucks on the road need to sort out their engines and stop this pollution and all the rest. But then she said something to me which literally changed my life. She said, Daddy, which company is that? And she pointed to the logo on the side of the truck. Because I don't think we should buy their stuff anymore. Now, worse than that though, is we got home that day, and Hannah got a piece of paper out and said, Daddy, how do you spell those chips again? And she wrote it on the list, and she put it up on the fridge. And she said, we're not allowed to buy that stuff in this house. That list now has 7 companies on it. I've put a label on it called the Codrington boycott list. Got a little graphic on it, a big sort of cross on it and all the rest. And we have now decided we're going to do this. We're going to change the world, one family at a time. Why not? And Hannah wants to fix the planet, and Hannah's parents are very happy to help her. What we do these days is when we find a company that deserves to go onto this boycott list, for whatever reason it might be, we get onto their website. My older daughter, Amy, who's now 8, that's not Amy, that's just a random photograph of a young child. But when we get home, Amy will go to the internet, and with my help, we will try and find the company's website. We will try and find the media officer or the CEO's email address, and we will email them and say, this is what happened today, you are going on our list. And we give them the reason, and then we add to that what we have now called Hannah's rules. And that is the rules that you have to abide by to get off of the list. Part of what I'm trying to also teach Hannah is about forgiveness. And the fact that, people who get on the list should also have an opportunity to get off the list as well. And someone recently wrote an email to me. I've been writing about this for a month or two, and someone wrote and said, well, why don't you have another list of all the preferred people you would like to work with? People who have deliberately gone out of the way. I think that's a great idea. We haven't started that yet, but we're probably going to soon. But Hannah's rules are about what's wrong with the world and how to fix it. And it's from a 6-year-old perspective. But that's what I want to share with you this morning, because Hannah inspired me. And Hannah doesn't quite know how to fix the world, because Hannah's 6. You can ask so much of a preschool kid, and they're pretty intelligent these days. But that would be a big ask. Hannah, what should we do to fix the world? She'd have some suggestions, but that would include more TV, bubbles and things like that. As her dad, my job is to be a futurist. That is what the closest is to any technical title I ever have earned. It's about looking at what's going to happen in the world, taking some of the trends that we see now and extrapolating them into the future, and asking what's the world going to be like in the near future? And what can we do to shape it? And I'd like to suggest to you that there are 4 major problems. Of all the things that are going wrong in the world, of all the stuff that we know is a potential danger and damage on this planet, I think that if we focus on these 4 things, we will probably solve 80% of the world's problems. Because we're human, we'll probably make some more in the process, but that's another task for another day. I'd like to suggest that these 4 things are 4 things you need to take seriously, because if you and your company, or you know what, just you and your family are prepared to do something about these 4 things, you will set yourselves apart as people and as organizations that are making a difference. And I think that customers will notice. I truly believe that. But I'll come back to that a little bit later. So, that's really the heart of the talk. These 4 problems and what you and your company can do about them. The first major problem is the planet. I think this is an obvious place to start. It's about the overuse of our resources. Problem number 2 is very simply poverty. Well, prosperity as well. It's the divide between the rich and the poor. The divide between the haves and the haves-mores. Okay, forget about the have-nots. The divide between the haves and the have-mores is growing, let alone between the haves and the have-nots. The third problem that I think we face is the issue of peace and security. We are living in an increasingly violent and increasingly crime-ridden world, an increasingly divided world, a world divided against itself. Fourth, and very briefly, the final problem is that business is not making the first 3 problems better, it is actually making them worse. And that most companies in the world are not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. But why should you take what I've said this morning seriously? Why should you look at the world's 4 biggest problems? Why should you and your company, or you and your family, or just you, worry about the overuse of the resources? Why should you be concerned about the growing divide between rich and poor? Why should you take an interest in solving the issues of peace and security in the world? And why should you care whether Hannah is interested in your business or not? Do you care whether you're on Hannah's list or not? Do you even know if you're on Hannah's list or not? I think if companies do this correctly, they will understand that what I'm asking here today is, I'm not asking you to be nice. I'm a capitalist. I don't own any Hessian underwear, promise. I'm not a member of Greenpeace, although I don't have a problem with people who are. But no, I'm not here asking you to go out and hug trees on the weekend and raise rabbits and things like that. It's not about being nice, although being nice I think is nice. It's about being a capitalist. I am a capitalist. I believe in making a profit because profits help you to sustain the business that you're doing. I think that if you do this stuff and take this stuff into account, you're actually going to be linking in with the future market and actually developing and increasing your profitability. Certainly it is going to cost us something. And those people not prepared to pay the cost, well, their grandchildren will have to pay it. Someone's going to have to pay it. And whether it's paid now or in 50 years' time, someone has to pay it. Maybe let me tell you a story. I grew up in South Africa. I am old enough to remember apartheid, but young enough to not have been part of the problem. And I obviously have a rich and nice heritage as a white South African. But I often speak to my parents and to my parents' generation, and I say, what did you do? You know, you knew what was going on. What did you do? I'm not old enough to have done anything. By the time I turned 18, things were beginning to change. The first time I voted was in that election in '94. But what did you do to my parents? And I'm not sure they got good answers, and I think many of them are embarrassed to say we did nothing. We knew what was going on, and we did nothing. I do not want Hannah, when she's 35, to say to me, what did you do? What did you do? You just carried on drinking your nice coffee, and you carried on buying shoes, and you carried on with the lighting, and you drove your car every day. What did you do, Dad? You knew. You knew. What did you do?
Graeme, thank you very much indeed. Graeme Codrington, ladies and gentlemen.